So what is an API? API stands for Application Programming Interface. It contains a set of functions, so that is used to communicate between two different systems. It will exchange the data between two interfaces, and you can use these APIs to interact with different systems and establish the communication between both the interfaces, and data will be exchanged based on the request. So that's what the API. And for example, you're using an API when paying for your new clothes on online job portal, online portal, so e-commerce website, right? Any e-commerce website, if you go and you can do online shopping, then you can pay, you can select the product, then you can pay the money. So the payment is happening from third-party website and it is going to the banks, right? That's the APIs only that is doing. So they are not developing that entire thing. So they're just calling through APIs. The bank functionality they're calling here. That is what with this API only possible. And so what is a web service? So web service is a software system designed to support interoperable machine-to-machine interaction over a network, or the internet. Over the internet, the system-to-system interaction will happen. That's a web service. But for API, you don't need a internet. You don't need a. It should not be over the network, right? You can just develop and you can give it to that. You can work on them directly in the project. But web service, it is going to happen over the network, over the internet. And suppose a Java-based application on Windows can communicate with a .NET application on Linux. The communication can be done with different messaging channels like XML, JSON messages over different protocols with HTTP protocol. Mainly we are going to use here, and that's what web service means. And the difference between web service and API is all web services are API, but all APIs are not web service. Okay, so web service uses only three styles of use. One is SOAP, REST, and XML RPC for communication. API may use any style for communication. Web services are self-contained. APIs are open source and can be used anywhere. Web services can only be hosted on IIS, Internet Information Service, and API can be hosted within application or IIS. Anywhere you can host. And a web service might not perform all operation that an API would perform. API can perform all tasks that web services can do. It requires a SOAP protocol to receive and send data over the network. So it is not a lightweight architecture, and it is a lightweight architecture and good for devices which have limited bandwidth like mobile devices. And web service needs network for its operation. API doesn't need network for its operation, as we discussed already this point. And this is the differences. So what are the features of web service? So interoperability, it means between the two different systems it can communicate easily. Reuse already developed functionality into new software. So already available functionality in the market, you don't need to develop again if you're developing a new application. Existing functionality you can incorporate in your application, you can use that. So that's you can reuse the already developed old functionality into a new software. Loosely coupled, easily you can integrate. Extensibility, you can extend all these web services to different applications. That's our web services features. What are different types of web services we have? One is SOAP, second one is RESTful web services. These are the two types of web services we have. What is a SOAP? SOAP stands for Simple Object Access Protocol. So it is a protocol which exchanges the information using request and send the response in XML format over transport protocols such as HTTP and SMTP protocols they will use. So the role of SOAP library is like this. The client and a service provider. And when you send a request, and in the server side, the request will be processed and response you will get back. So what are the important components of a SOAP? Simple Access Object Protocol, SOAP, Web Service Description Language, WSDL, and Universal Description, Discovery and Integration, UDDI. So this is the three components are there in the SOAP. So what is WSDL? So WSDL stands for Web Service Description Language. It is an XML file, basically XML file, which describes the technical details of your API, your web service, how to implement a web service, more specifically the URI, port, method names, arguments, and data types. You can understand following details using WSDL. So this is the structure of WSDL file. Port and endpoint, URL of the web service, input message format, output message format, security protocol that needs to be followed, which protocol web services uses. So all this will be mentioned in the WSDL file. Basically, SOAP is a XML based completely, and you should have a fair idea on the XML tags and XML, right, related attributes. And the entire functionality will be defined in this WSDL file only. So what is the endpoint URL, which port it is going to work, what is the input format, what output you will get, security protocol. These all will be mentioned in this WSDL file. So what is UDDI? So UDDI stands for Universal Description, Discovery and Integration. It is a directory service. The web service provider can register themselves with a UDDI and make themselves available through its discovery. That's how UDDI means. These are the three components of a SOAP. And basically this is the SOAP, how you will send the URI and endpoints. XML NS environment, HTTP, and this is the domain or host address and the endpoint URL, and it will be like that, endpoint URL. So that's how we will write all in the XML format. So what are the different SOAP testing tools available? SOAP UI, UFT, and JMeter. So these are the tools you can use to do a SOAP testing, SOAP web services testing. But here we are discussing only RESTful web services. What is a REST? REST is an architectural style which was brought in by Ray Fielding in 2000 in medical practice. And web service terms, representational state transfer is a stateless client server architecture in which the web services are viewed as a resource. The web services are viewed as a resources and can be identified their URIs. URIs is Unified Resource Identifier, Uniform Resource Identifier, URIs. Every resource is identified by these URIs. Every resource is identified by their URI. Web service clients that want to use these resources access via globally defined set of remote methods that describe the action to be performed on the resource. So what are the methods I will discuss in few minutes. Okay, it consists of two components: server, which provides access to the resources, a client which access and modify the REST resource. Basically, you have a client and server architecture, right? So when you client will send a request, the process will happen in the server side, or you can modify the resource in the server side and you can get back the response. The modified data and updated data, created data, you can get it back. In the REST architectural style, clients and servers exchange the resources by using a standardized interface and protocol. REST isn't a protocol, but when people talk about REST, they usually means REST over HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol. You have to send your request through HTTP format. So the response is coming from server is considered as a representation of a resource. So whatever the response you're getting from the server, That is resource information you are getting. So this representation can be generated from one resource or more number of resources. Maybe you can combine also. That's the thing. This is how you can send a request. Client will send the request using URI, and endpoint URI will be there to the resource or service you can send, and you will get back a response in the form of either XML, JSON, plain text, or PNG. Any format you can send back. Even request also you can send with XML or JSON or plain text or HTML. Any format you can send. So this is the HTTP is the king of web service. Hypertext transfer protocol, text-based vocabulary defining requests and responses, document storage usually on the web service provider, support synchronous request and response conversations. So basically, what are the elements will be there in the web service API? So you have a message format. What type of message you are sending, you are requesting, either SOAP or XML or JSON, what type of format you want to send a message. And then request parameters are, so you will have a naming methods. Named methods are the request methods. HTTP methods will be there. Get to, post to, put to, patch and delete. These are the HTTP verb methods will be there. Then headers, you need to pass the headers also. So this is the thing you will send for every request. So what you will do, your web service API, so URI contains, so first you should have a HTTP verb method. So what are all the HTTP verb methods? Get, post, put, patch and delete. These are the HTTP verb methods. First one is protocol. What is there first? Protocol. Protocol is always HTTP one. HTTP or HTTPS. That's the protocol. Then immediately you have to select HTTP verb method. Yeah, this is the one only first. HTTP verb method will select first. Then second one is protocol. What protocol you are sending your URI, so your endpoint URL. So endpoint URL we call this endpoint URI. It will be like this. First HTTP verb method. You are requesting what type of information, what type of request you are sending. The verb method will tell you, right? HTTP, hypertext transfer protocol. And first get method. What is this get method? Get method fetch the information from the server. That's a get method. Post method will create the resource on the server side. Whatever the input data you are giving, that data will be created. Put method, it will update the data. It will update the data. Whatever you have a resource, already existing resource you can modify with put. Even there is a difference between put and patch. What is the difference between put and patch? Put is if you want you can update, but if there is no resource, you can create it. It will create out. If the resource is not there in the server side, request a resource, it will create. That's how two actions put is going to do. But patch is only do the updation. That's it, patch. And delete the given resource from the server side. And then authentication, you have to authenticate either through access token. So there are access tokens will be there. So one is basic auth, then bearer token or OAuth 2.0. These are the famous different access tokens will be there. So you can basically, if you want to hit any server directly, they won't give permission. Okay, if you want to identify you are a valid user, so they will ask one authentication, that is authorization token, bearer token, OAuth 2.0, basic auth. It's a kind of different tokens will be there. Now fourth one, and you can pass the host URL, host name / URL, endpoint URL. So even query parameters also you can pass like query parameters. You can give query parameters even with headers also. You have to pass one more header. So these are the things it will be there in your endpoint URL. So URL will be, these are the formats will be there in the URL. So that's what it is discussing. And you can receive the data either in the XML format, JSON format, any other format you can. That's this request and response. So web service API structure, what it contains, I have given here. This is the structure of web service API, and that's all. Then what is the difference between SOAP and RESTful web services? Different. SOAP is a protocol, REST is a architectural style. SOAP stands for Simple Object Access Protocol. REST stands for Representational State Transfer, and SOAP cannot use REST because it is a protocol. REST can use SOAP web services because it is a concept, any protocol like HTTP and SOAP. SOAP uses services interfaces to expose the business logic. REST uses URI to expose the business logic. So they won't show the code, right? They'll just give in the URI, right? The URIs have all the like functions, like URIs means they will create a functions and you can use it. XWS is the Java API for SOAP web services. This is the security layer for SOAP. XRS is the Java API for REST web services. This is the security concept in the REST. SOAP defines standards to be strictly followed, and REST does not define too much standards like SOAP. And SOAP requires more bandwidth and resource than REST. REST requires less bandwidth and resources than SOAP. SOAP defines its own security. RESTful web services inherit security measures from the underlying transfer. SOAP permits XML data format only. REST permits different data formats such as plain text, HTML, XML, JSON, any format you can send the request. SOAP is less preferred nowadays. REST is more preferred these days. So many companies are using RESTful web services only. SOAP web services, if you want to do, it's a bit costly and also a lot of disadvantages. Only XML, you should be very familiar. And here you don't need it. Just JSON format you can send and you can work on that. That's the advantage with RESTful web. So the REST API endpoint URL, how it will be. REST API endpoint URL plus API method plus parameters will be there, your request URL. So this is the structure, you can see that. https://api.flickr.com services REST question mark. If question mark comes, that is called filtering purpose parameters you are giving, and that question mark and means you're combining two resources. That's a AND operator, and then response you'll get back to client. So when you send a request to the web server, and REST API and RESTful web services, here the URL I told, right? The URL, so unified resource locator. First protocol will be there, then host address, then resource name. What is the resource in this server? So this is the request URL format. And next one is, so in the request URL, what all will be there? So I told you HTTP verb methods, and then URL will be there. And the bottom side, you have to give request headers and authorization also you have to give. Okay, so that's the request URL format. And what is this HTTP verb methods? HTTP verb methods, 4 types I told you. Get to, post to, put to, delete. So get is used to read the data from the server side. You can get the information from the server about the resource. This operation is idempotent. Idempotent means when you send a request multiple times, the state of the resource doesn't change. That is called idempotent. What is idempotent? If you send a request multiple times, state of the resource should not change. It's a get request. This operation is idempotent. They can be applied multiple times without changing the result. That's a get call. And put call, so it is generally used for updating a resource. Same resource, if you are trying to send multiple times, also it won't update. It will same thing will be updated and it won't change. That's a idempotent. This is also put, also idempotent. Delete the resource from the server. So this operation also idempotent. Once it is deleted, again if you try to delete it, nothing will happen to that resource. So this is also another idempotent operation on the server side. Post, so it is used for creating a new resource. It is not idempotent because it will, every time you create a new ID, it will generate. The post is not idempotent, and that's a all the methods. So I have given here with examples: delete method, deleting any file, deleting photos from account, and so on. So that is a delete method. So this method update the existing resource. In simple words, you can say just this method can update the existing file on server side, updating address, changing name, renaming files, and so on is done by put method. Get method, this method only retrieves the data from the server. No change on the server side of resource. Taking any news, searching anything on the web, these are all the get method related. Post method, this method performs the changes to the server. In simple, it always creates a resources in the server. Example, uploading the picture, sending a tweet, submitting the form. These are all comes under post method. So post is not idempotent. So if you retry the request n times, you will end up having n resources with n different URIs created on the server. You're sending n number of times, so it will create n number of resources on the server side with a different ID. So that's the post method advantage. So these are all get to, post to, put till we discussed already. Okay. How can you perform this RESTful web services testing manually? You can use Postman. You can use a REST client, Chrome browser and Firefox browser plugins. Also, you can use anyone you can use. Okay. Now, Postman is a native app. They created an app. Before it was a Chrome plugin, but now Chrome asked to remove that plugin. So they removed and they created their own app, Postman app. So you can just download Postman app. So can you download this Postman app so that we can work on this RESTful web services testing? How you can test the RESTful web services, we'll see that. Otherwise, we can use REST client plugin for Firefox Pro. So even let me show you a plugin in the Firefox browser. Here, can you see here REST client? And just okay. Now this is the one. See the methods? These are all the methods. Get to, post to, put to, delete. These are the methods you can use. Then URL. You have to give URL here. Which URL you are going to hit? You don't need to open your application. So just URLs will be there. You can directly do operations on your web application. That's advantage with this RESTful web services and so. And these are request body. If you are sending a post request, then you can give the data here. Suppose you want to create an account. That's a create a post will do that. So if you want to create account anywhere, then just give that URL and then the request body you give, automatically you will get a response. So that's, for example, if I give https google.com, if you just hit that, this is a get call and send no body, no request body. Just hit the send button. See that 301 mode permanently, the status code 200, okay. And these are the headers. The response you are getting in the, so you can choose the format, which format you want a response, and then preview. You can see google.com is open here. The page is open. I don't need to go to browser and need to do that. So that's advantage here. This any accessing any page, that's you can do directly with the get call. Okay, so this is the all the get call you can execute here. And again, authentication, you see, basic authentication, OAuth protocol, OAuth 1.0, OAuth 2.0. These are the protocols, authorization. I was telling authentication, right? Basic authentication you can give. So what type of no authentication? Then headers, you can set the headers, custom headers. You can create a custom headers also. This the headers is very important. Okay, how you want your so JSON. So application accept. I can say accept application JSON. I can type here. See application JSON, application XML. So many formats are you have. So okay. So it will add headers like this. If you want one more, add one more. Content type. So content type. application. So like this, you can add headers. So basic authentication also you can add. So this is the headers we need to add. See that, as I mentioned you, your RESTful web service URL will be first HTTP verb method, then URL, then headers, and request body. Request body comes only for post method. Remember that. Okay. And then this is the how you can test all your endpoints, all your APIs. And we have a Postman. You can use a Postman to test your APIs. And there is a one more way you can test through command prompt also. Call you can use to test through command prompts. So Postman helps you to be extremely efficient while working with APIs. With Postman, you can construct requests quickly, save them for later use, and analyze the responses sent by the API. Postman can cut down the time required to test and develop the APIs. Postman adapts itself for individual developers, small teams, big organization. So Act is very helpful for all the past members. Okay, all the different organizations. This is very helpful. So how to install Postman? So not necessary in Chrome, but you can download. Directly. It's a native app now. It's a native app now. You can just download from here. So can you download this? You can just click on download for Windows or Mac, whatever it is. So after downloading, click on Postman icon. The Postman homepage will show like this. You can just so first download this. I'll show you how you need to register to the Postman. So this is the one Postman. Once you download this, a native app. You just download that native app. So if you go to here, you have directly download app. Okay, right? Directly you can download the app. Postman download. So they develop Postman on the web also. Now access Postman through your web browser. Simply create a free Postman account and you are in. You can use that also. If you don't want a native app, so downloading the app, you can use Postman on the web also. But we downloaded the Postman. Once you download, you open them, it will be like this. So this is the Postman, and you can see that here you have again all the get to, post to, put to, patch and delete. Get is to retrieve the data. Post is to create the data. Put is for update. Patch is for update. And delete, it will delete the option. You have many other things. Copy, head, do options, so purge, lock, unlock, prop find, but we won't use. Only we're using these four only, these five. Get, post, put, patch, and delete. These are the things only we're going to use. Other things you don't need to worry about them. Okay. And then the protocol I told you, you have to start with HTTP or HTTPS, and then the URL you can give, endpoint URL you can give. So then below you have parameters you can specify, authorizations you can specify, so different authorization, no auth, API key, bearer token, basic auth, OAuth 1.0, OAuth 2.0, Hawk authentication, AWS signature, so many we have. But basically we'll use sometimes basic auth, bearer token, API key, so these things you can use. Then headers, you can set a lot of headers. Key value pair you can set it. Key value pair you can set, you can get that. Next, body. In the body, you can write, select this raw radio button, you can give your own data. That's how body means. And that's the request URL what you are going to send. Then hit the send button. Automatically, it will be send a request and you will get the response. Suppose if you use get method, so I can do the get method. Let me show you get method. Get method http to google.com. So I'm not giving any parameters, authorization, headers because it's a public, right? Google.com is can access direct, right? So in the JSON format also you can see now in the response, this is the response 200. Okay, status codes. Status codes is a very important. And HTML, you want JSON format, you can get it. All JSON format you can get. Whatever the format you want, XML format or HTML format, text format. So whatever the format you want, you can get it. your entire Google HTML page you are getting here, right? Your entire Google HTML page you are getting here. That so HTML head body, right? You can get it here. All the HTML document. So preview if you want, the Google page will show you. It's a Google page, and that's how you can access even through Postman. Also, you can send the request. You can get back them. So did you download the Postman? And you have to do account creation in the Postman. Once you download, you open that, and you can create an account with the Postman. So after that, before doing that, so we should understand how you can send the request. And I'll come back to here, this Postman. What is a JSON? A JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. JSON is a lightweight format for storing and transporting data between the client and server. So you can use JSON when data is sent from server to a web page. JSON is transporting the data. And JSON is a self-describing and easy to understand. It's just a key value pair. And this is the example. So you will use a curly braces. Okay. In curly braces will be there. This is the square bracket represents an array. In the array, you have multiple objects, right? So this is one object. Every curly braces region inside called one object. Like that, you can create under array multiple objects. Now here, array name is an employees, and this is the first element, second element, third element. See, everything you can see a key value pair. Both are strings you mentioned, but you can give numbers also. Last name, so colon you use key value in between. First name colon 1, last name colon, first name colon Peter, last name colon, like this. And data is in name value pairs. This name value pair. Data is separated by commas, the comma. Curly braces hold the objects. This is the curly braces hold the objects. Square bracket holds array. Square bracket means array. So JSON data, a name and a value. JSON data is written in as name and value pairs, just like JavaScript object properties. A name value pair consists of a field name followed by a colon followed by a value. So that's what, right? A field name. This is the one field. The field is enclosed in double quote. Even the value also enclosed in double quote. If it is a string, and this is a colon is used. JSON names require a double quote, JavaScript names, and JSON objects are written inside curly braces, just like in JavaScript. Objects can contain multiple name value pairs. First name John, last name Doe, and like this you can create a JSON objects. So JSON arrays means just now we discussed in the curly braces. Inside the square bracket. Inside the square bracket, you will represent an array. And what are the different status codes? So we have a different status codes. One series you have 100 for continue, 101 switching protocols, 102 processing, but you never going to see these things. Okay, 200 series is very important. For a mainly you need to focus 200 series, 400 series, and 500 series. These are the main important points. 200 means what? Successfully, your request is processed on the server side. That's a 200 OK means. And 200, basically 200 OK you will get for the get calls and put and delete calls. That's a 200 OK you will get if successfully processed that request. 201 created. A post method will return this 201 created. That means a resource is created. 202 accepted. So your request is accepted, then you will get a 202 accept. 203 a non-authoritative information. 204 no content. 204 when the request is processed, but to return as a response no content is there. Then you can use this 204 no content. And that's enough for us, at least a few of them. 206 partial content, it's enough. Not necessarily all you need to learn, but first 5 or 6 you learn. Okay, so they will ask you at least 6 or 5 things from each series, 200 series. Then 300 series we have 300 multiple choices, 301 moved permanently, 302 found, 303 see other, 304 not modified, 305 use proxy, and 307 temporary redirect, 308 permanent redirect. But this also we won't use much. So 200 series is the main. Next 400 series you are going to use. Till 10 you need to read. Till 9 is enough. Till 9 is enough. What is 400? 400 bad request. You are sending request, but that is not correct. Syntax and everything not proper. Then that is called 400 bad request you will get. 401 unauthorized. 401 unauthorized means you haven't provided the authentication token. Like your authorization is not correct. Your authentication is not correct. Username, password you have given invalid. Then you will get 401 unauthorized. 402 payment required and 403 forbidden. What is the difference between 401 and 403? 401 is authentication problem. Your username and password is not correct, or your token ID not correct. Bearer token or a basic auth token, token is not correct, or you haven't provided. Then you will get a 401 unauthorized. And 403 forbidden when you will get is you have authenticated, but you don't have a permission to view that is to do operation on that resource. Then you will get a 403 forbidden. So be clear on 401 and 403. 404 not found. The resource is currently not available. That's a 404 not found, you will get it. And 405 method not allowed. So the method is not there. Then you are using that API end method, endpoint, that is not correct one. You will see 405 method not allowed. Maybe for post request, you're using a get call, get endpoint URL. Then you can say 405 method not allowed. The endpoint URL you're using differently for different verb methods, HTTP verb methods. Post call endpoint URL using for get call, then it will throw error, right? So that's the this method not allowed means. These are client side errors. 400 series are client side errors. And 409 conflict, same resource you are creating and you will get a 409 conflict. And 408 request timeout. In the client side itself, for taking more time to send a request, you will get 408 requests. That's enough. We don't want much on this. So many I listed, but not necessarily all. 500 series. So we have a internal server error and 500. 500 means server side error. Your process is not able to do on the server side. Your request is not able to process properly, and you will get a 500 internal server error. 501 not implemented. The requested endpoint URL is not implemented on the server side. You can get a 501 not implemented. 502 bad gateway. 502 bad gateway means, so when you send a request, it is not able to process. So not able to process and not able to send the response. So it is taking more time than you need 502 bad gateway. 503 service unavailable. Service unavailable means this one of the service is down. Then you are sending a request to that service. Then you will get a service unavailable. And 504 gateway timeout. And so your response not able to send and it is timing out, and that's a 504 you will get. And 505 HTTP version not supported. You are using HTTP version, wrong version, then you will get this. And network authentication required 511. And so this just 4 or 5 is enough. Okay, so understand this 500. So this is the very important these status codes. In the interviews also they will ask, mainly they will focus on what are the HTTP verb methods, what is meant by each HTTP verb method, and what are the status codes. You're aware of that. And then what you will do, mainly what your verification you will do in the API testing is basically business logic you will test. You will find the logical errors in the business logic area, middleware. Mainly this API testing will happen on the middleware. So that's the test. And also you can verify status codes. You have to verify status codes in the each endpoint is giving correct status code or not, because all these APIs developers will develop and give it to us in the documentation. Either they can put in the Swagger document or API documentation, they will prepare and give it to us, and they will give the what is the format, so which format you need to send, what HTTP method you need to use, and what is the headers you need to use, what are the token you need to use, and that all formats they will give and explains what this method will do. So that's what we are going to do here. Let me show you all this sample. Postman is providing some APIs. That APIs we can execute. So this is the API documentation. Just go here and open your API documentation. Okay, API documentation of Postman. First you create an account. You have to create an account, then only you can access these things. So then authorization token. We need authorization token to access the Postman endpoints, Postman APIs. And here you can generate the Postman authorization token. So let's see. So this is the Postman APIs. So all the Postman APIs are available here. Okay, so you can find all the Postman APIs here. Okay, yeah. So now you can see all the APIs here. Can you see here? When you don't give the authorization token, and then you will get this message 401 unauthorized you will get. And then here you can see first collections. So get call, all collections you want to fetch. This is the endpoint URL. You need to give this endpoint URL. Okay, so this endpoint URL you need to use to request, and then slash collections is the endpoint here. So this is the server URL, your Postman URL, and the slash collections is the endpoint. Returns a list of all collections that are accessible by you. The list includes your own collections and other collections that you have subscribed to. And then they have given requires API key as a X API key is the key name, and the value for that is you have to give API key value. So authorization, so API key you can select and you can give that. So even you can execute through the curl also, curl command also you can execute, and you can get a response here. So this is the curl they provided, and also in the Postman you can execute them. So open request, you can open request and you can access that, or you can open directly Postman and you can give this. We'll create a collection. In this collection, all these endpoints you can add.